Fight fans, the Octagon returns to Miami tonight for UFC 327, Procházka versus Ulberg. So many insane fights on the card. On the prelims alone, we got Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown and Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico, a Bellator banger. All right, we're just going to go over the main card as usual because we don't want to keep you here for long. Starting it off in the featherweight division, Cub Swanson versus Nate the Train Landwehr. Cub, at age 42, with 44 fights under his belt, he looks to end his career on top with a win here tonight. Win or lose, he is set to put down the gloves. Now, that doesn't mean fully backing away from the sport, though. He will still be coaching, and he just opened a new gym, Bloodline Combat Sports. With a record of 30-14, he has 13 KOs, 5 submissions, with notable wins over Charles Dubanks Oliveira, Dustin the Diamond Poirier, and Jeremy Stephens. Now, on the other side, Landwehr. Yes, he's coming off of back-to-back losses, but that doesn't show who he really is. This man is a dog. Always seems to be a fun fight to watch, and he's always in a freaking brawl. Record of 18-7 with 9 KOs, 2 subs, and 3 of them coming in the first round. I'm going to say this a lot, but this should be a great fight, especially to open up the main card. Next up in the light heavyweight division, Dominic the Devastator Reyes versus Johnny Walker. You know this will end in a finish for sure. Both of these men have a combined 32 finishes and 28 of them coming in the first round. Enough said. Next one in the heavyweight division, I'm really excited to see how this one pans out for sure. Curtis Razor Blades versus Josh the Incredible Hulk Hogan. The lead up to this has been crazy. Love him or hate him, Josh won media day. Then he went on and won the press conference. Now the real question is, will he win the fight? All right, number 5 ranked Curtis Blades accepts an unranked, undefeated opponent. Curtis has gone 14-5 under the UFC promotion, only losing to top names: Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, Sergey Pavlovich, and Tom Aspinall. He has 13 wins by knockout, with 3 of them ending in the first round. On the other side, Josh, former NFL player, was never actually on the field, but he was signed to 2 teams, undefeated at 8-0, with all ending by finish. 5 knockouts, 3 subs, and 6 of them ending in the first round. The first middle finger TKO in UFC history. I mean, come on. He's making a name for himself on the mic too, that's for sure. The co-main event now in the light heavyweight division. Azamat, the professional, Mirzakhanov versus Paulo, the eraser Costa. Another excited one. This whole card I'm excited for. Holy crap. There was some online beef between these two prior to that led into the press conference. Now, Azamat saying Brazilians were messaging him saying to finish Costa. Then Costa went on to call Azamat a fat mofo at the press conference. Number 6 ranked Azamat, undefeated Russian at 16-0 with 12 wins by KO, 1 sub, and 10 of them in the first round. So far, he has finished all 6 of his UFC opponents. Now, on the other side, though, unranked Costa, moving up to 205, still looked like he had a decent weight cut. Like he had to cut a decent amount of weight going up to 205. That just shows how much weight he was cutting to get down to middleweight. With a record of 15-4, he has 11 KOs, 1 sub, and 9 of them coming in the first round. Now, the fight we're all waiting for. The main event of the evening. In the light heavyweight division, once again, number 2 ranked contender, Yuri Procházka versus number 3 ranked contender, Carlos the Black Jag Ulberg. A pick'em of a fight, that's for sure. Yuri, former light heavyweight champion, looks to become a 2-time champion here tonight. At 33 years old, he's fought in the UFC 8 times, losing only to Alex Chama Pereira. Out of his 38 pro fights, he's only been to a decision once. That's a stat alone right there. 38 fights, 1 decision? Crazy. Record of 32-5 with 1 draw, 28 wins by knockout, and 23 of them coming in the first round. Never in a boring matchup, that's for sure. Let's go for that. Now, number 3 ranked Ulberg, training out of City Kickboxing with coach Eugene Behrman and many UFC fighters. Israel Adesanya, Alexander Volkanovski, Navajo Sterling, Cam Ralston, Kai Kara France. Who else am I missing? Dan Hooker. 13-1 with that one loss being his UFC debut against Kennedy Njoku. Since then, though, he's gone and won 9 in a row. Carlos has 9 KOs, 1 sub, and 7 of them ending in the first round. Now, with as many fights as Yuri has compared to Carlos, Yuri's actually 2 years younger than Carlos at 33, and Carlos is 35. Now, neither of these men, though, are young going into this fight. Like I said, it's a pick'em, that's for sure. Thanks for watching as always. I appreciate y'all if you're still here. Next weekend we got CFFC, UFC, RAF. Tonight there's PFL, BKFC. Fights all around, boys. Freak out. Enjoy.